Hello, everyone. I think we're about to get started on the Energy Mini Career Chat. For any of our guests here, if you would turn off your sound, mute your audio, that would be awesome. And then we'll get started. So I'm Mindy Wilson. Most of you know who I am. I think I know all the students in here in one way or another. Today we have Kat McFadden-Riddle. She's class of 2004. She is a director at Schneider Electric. And then Josh Smith, who's class of 2006, and he's the senior reservoir analyst at Encino Energy. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit about themselves, and then we'll have time to ask questions at the end.
Awesome. I've gotten picked to go first, so I'll start by thanking you all for choosing to spend your time with us today. This is a cool opportunity. I've never done anything like this before, so you all are my guinea pigs as much as this opportunity being a guinea pig experience for me. So like Mindy said, my name's Kat McFadden-Riddle, graduated from Center in 2004, and I now work for a company called Schneider Electric. It is a French company in spite of the name not sounding particularly French, and we are headquartered right outside of Paris. Schneider Electric is essentially the global leader in energy management. So we're basically a consultant, and we help our customers on what we like to call their active energy management life cycles. So taking things like buying energy and managing your risk and making sure that you're using energy efficiently and growing sustainably and making sure that you are reducing your resource consumption are all types of kind of components of that active energy management life cycle that we help our customers achieve. Very specifically, my department, which is called Invoice Analysis and Validation, a huge mouthful. My team runs, I run a team who is responsible for validating our customers' energy bills. And when you think maybe about the amounts of energy that you use, for example, a typical household is maybe consuming a couple or a few thousand kilowatt hours of energy a month. Contrast that with large industrial users who could be consuming millions of kilowatt hours a month. And there's a lot of money in that. Making sure your bills are right is a really important kind of component there. And so that's what we do. You're probably thinking, how in the world did you go from Center to there? I was an international studies major, so doesn't sound particularly related to the field I'm in today. I say that because if you're in a field that you think, I wonder what I'll do eventually, you don't always have to know. And I think I'm kind of living proof of that. But when I graduated from Center, I had a couple of jobs that I would say were not career oriented. I was just kind of doing some things to make some money while I figured out what it was exactly that I wanted to do. And ultimately, it was in August of 2008 that I made my way back to Kentucky in the first place, and specifically to Louisville. And what brought me to Louisville mostly was that my friends from college moved here afterwards, and I was kind of the one person that didn't. And so I came back to Kentucky, relocated to Louisville, and started as an associate with what is now Schneider Electric. It wasn't even called that at the time. And so I essentially started working in a role that I now have managers managing those people today. So my career progression has been pretty linear. But when I was thinking about preparing for this discussion and talking to you all, I was trying to take stock of, what I was doing when I was, not even 30 and working in this first corporate job. And I didn't think about it at the time, but I was building my brand. I was building who I was as a person within the company. And so things like coming to work on time and dressing like a professional and doing more than just enough to get by were things that I saw as really important. I wanted to be somebody that people looked to as really good at their job and somebody who was willing to take an opportunity and make the most of it. And it really panned out because in July of 2013, I moved to Budapest, Hungary at the request of the company when we acquired a company over there. And they said, hey, Kat, do you want to go help integrate them into our systems and processes? And I thought, yes, this is cool. So there's a slight link to international studies there when I got to move abroad. But I did that. It was supposed to be a 2-year stint. It turned into 3.5. And when I came back, to the US, I then took over management of a US-based team. And so I was running, a group of people here in Louisville, doing the job that I once did. And then last year in the summer, they came to me and asked, hey, we'd like to promote you into a director position. Kind of, how does that sound? And of course, I was really ecstatic and I thought, well, this is great. It sounds amazing. And so now I am responsible for a group of people who work in 5 different countries across the world. It's about 100 people total. And so when we're not in the middle of a global pandemic, I do get to, occasionally go to some of these foreign countries and, connect with my team members personally. And unfortunately, I got over to Europe in February, just before everything kind of started to shut down. So I at least got to see that group of people. Unfortunately, the Australians are going to have to wait a little bit longer. But that's basically what I do. I run a global team, and it's not something that I necessarily thought that I would. If you'd have asked me in 2004, could you imagine that you'll be doing this? The answer is no. And again, when I thought about talking to you all today, a book that I read only about a year ago kind of came to mind, and it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You: Why Skills Trump Passion in the Quest for Work You Love. It's written by a guy called Cal Newport. And his book it has an interesting premise to it, which is essentially get so good that people can't ignore how good you are. And when I thought back to what kind of how I approached work, it was sort of that way. Like, I wanted to be the person that people came to when they needed something or when they had a complex question. And so it meant that I was offered an opportunity to move to Hungary that other people weren't offered. It meant that I was, given a team to manage. They held a role for me, essentially, and other people didn't have that same opportunity. They offered me this director position. They said, nobody has this kind of experience, and we want you, we'd love for you to step into this role because you have stuff that other people don't have. And so I didn't go to college to become this, but the job that I originally took sounded interesting. And when I got into it, I discovered how much I really liked it. And the better I got at it, the more I liked it. And so it's sort of a for me at least, I've found it to be kind of a self-perpetuating cycle. Center certainly prepared me to think very globally. I spent a semester in London. I met people from a lot of different kind of walks of life. And I think a lot of people say things like, it helped me be a better writer. It helped me learn how to communicate with people. Yes, writing lots of papers and being effective at that, I do think has a long-lasting kind of impact, or at least it did for me. And so again, when I kind of look at what I was preparing myself for at Center, it gave me skills that I think translated into a job that I didn't necessarily intend to have, or I didn't know that I was going to have. But making myself kind of open to a process or an opportunity or an experience, and then trying to get really good at it, and being willing to take some risks. I mean, moving abroad for a few years is not a small feat, but I think being open to that kind of stuff is how I believe that I've gotten where I am. So for me, that's kind of how I got where I am today. I loved being at Center. I hope you all love it as well. And so I will share the time now with Josh and give him kind of a chance. And then at the end of this, you all are going to be able to ask questions. So if you have one for me, we'll wait till Josh has had a chance.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Give a thumbs up. Okay, great. My name is Josh Smith, and I attended Center College and graduated in 2006. It's funny that Kat worked in Budapest because I studied abroad in Budapest during my time at Center. I double majored in mathematics and English, and I've been working in the oil and gas industry for 14 years since college. And like Kat, I never considered the oil and gas industry. This wasn't a goal of mine. It wasn't something that I saw as a career path. And we'll talk a little bit more about how I exactly landed that role. But again, I did not study to become a senior reservoir analyst with Encino Energy. Over my time in the oil industry, I've worked at both large and small companies, both public and private. And I've been asked today to share some experiences with you. So over the next 7 minutes, I want to accomplish 4 basic objectives. First, give you a very brief overview of what the oil and gas industry does. Second, talk specifically about what I do within the oil and gas industry. Third, discuss how I got from center to where I am today, and then finally share what I think the key things are that have been most impactful in my career so far. So what does the oil and gas industry do? Well, at its most basic level, the oil and gas industry tries to make a profit by extracting, processing, and then selling a natural resource, in this case, oil or natural gas. Looking at the bigger picture, oil and gas companies provide energy to produce electricity, to heat our homes, to power automobiles, and to power other industries. For an idea of scope, the oil and gas industry as a total, now this includes everybody from CEOs all the way to folks that work at convenience stores at gas stations, but as a whole, the oil and gas industry employs about 5% of US workers. Specifically, I work in the upstream part of the oil and gas industry, that is the extraction portion of the industry. There's also a midstream segment that is pipeline and transportation, and a downstream segment, which is refining and then ultimately consumer sales. In the upstream segment particularly, we identify where oil and gas accumulations are likely. So we employ people like geologists, geophysicists, environmental scientists, people that do surveying. Then we lease the mineral rights from landowners. And this, we employ land professionals, lawyers, a lot of folks there. We invest lots and lots of money to drill wells and build infrastructure to gather the resources that we're extracting. And then we extract the oil and gas and then sell them to a pipeline company. So unlike a mining company, for example, who has a multi-billion-dollar upfront investment that they make before they develop an asset, oil and gas companies traditionally make a series of more like $10 million investments every time they drill a well and how they decide they're going to develop their asset. And that gets into what I do within the upstream segment of the oil and gas industry. And that is, as a senior reservoir analyst, I do essentially two things. I run economic calculations to determine the profitability of certain business decisions, certain things that influence where, when, and how we will drill wells. And then I maintain the economics database that enables me to run these calculations. Those are the two basic pieces of what I do. Aside from the formal budget planning process, which is where we formally go through the business plan, I have to run a bunch of other economic calculations for the company to make decisions and kind of weigh different opportunities or model market scenarios. So, for example, another company might say, hey, we'd like to pay your upfront cost for the next 20 development wells in exchange for a 30% interest in the project and a 1% override. But to do this with you, we need you to execute costless swaps to lock in your commodity prices via hedges. And the company needs to know, should we accept the deal? That's where somebody like me and the team that I work on would evaluate this and decide whether or not that's a good decision for our company. So how did I get from center into doing this kind of role? Straight out of college, I have to acknowledge that I benefited from many privileges and advantages that I didn't earn. And many of you as college graduates would enjoy some of those same advantages. So I would urge you to please be mindful and thankful for all those advantages. Specifically for me, I was recruited by a recruiter from ConocoPhillips straight out of college. And this was, I got in touch with this person on monster.com, which I don't know if that's a thing anymore. But that's where I found this recruiter. It was not my first thing I looked for. I looked for a lot of different opportunities and this just sort of came up. So I packed up and moved to Texas and I got a job as a engineering technician is what my entry-level position was called. I listened a lot. I learned a lot from the people around me. I tried to learn as much about the company, what it does, and what I could do to expand my role and influence. Then I chose to move to another company, Marathon Oil, after a couple of years, and I learned some very important skills for the oil and gas industry, and I took a job in corporate planning. And after a while there, I went to a small private company where I did acquisitions, and I learned a whole lot. I think a lot of people would say the drinking from a fire hose kind of scenario. And I worked very hard and was way outside my comfort zone in that opportunity. Then I went back to Marathon again to work in a different team in a different capacity, and I was hired back by a former boss So it was an opportunity I found out from my network. Then I was laid off there during one of the commodity downturns, and I landed at BHP. Fantastic company, worked there doing a similar thing to what I do now. And I was laid off there again, which the timing was great because I just had my my child born, and so I was able to take time off to be there for the first part of my child's life. And I landed at Encino Energy then, again through a person I'd worked with in the past as the person that hired me in. So that was not a monster.com, but a network kind of opportunity I was aware of. So finally, what are the key things that I think have been most influential to my career? Aside from the other advantages you'll enjoy as a college graduate, I would say you should focus on, for your first kind of landing your first job, focus on showing your critical thinking skills, your problem solving skills, and your communication skills. These three skills transcend industry, they transcend your degree, and everybody wants them. It's what you've got to show you can do throughout your career. And you have to be the captain of your own career. Nobody is going to have your best interest in mind but you. Don't just blindly trust a training program at your company, or that you're just going to stay and do the same sort of thing and that they'll develop you the way you need to be. You need to be your own captain for your career. And then you need to define for yourself what success means for you. It's different for everybody. And defining it specifically for yourself will lead you to hold yourself accountable to the goals that you create. Creating goals for yourself and where you're going to be 5 years, 10 years, and then holding yourself accountable is very important, not just professionally, but personally. And I'll finish with a story. When I was leaving one role where it was very difficult, a senior VP came and talked to me and said, look, every place you go in your career, you carry two buckets with you. One bucket's for cash and one bucket's for crap. And when either bucket fills up, you move on. And most people can identify that as when their bucket for crap fills up, you move on. But you've got to remember that you need to have an exit plan. If your bucket for money fills up, you think you've gotten what you came to get, stick to your exit plan, move on, and remember that there's more success and goals to accomplish than just at your current job, your current role, or just in the office place. Remember to have a life too. That's my time.
Excellent, thank you. I want to open it up for any questions that the students might have.
I have a question. So my name is Adonis and I'm a junior. I'm majoring in environmental studies, and I'm mainly interested in sustainable development and sustainable economics. And I learned of Schneider Electric about a month ago, and I've been on the website a lot, and I really like everything that you guys do. I'm wondering if you could speak to like internship opportunities, or like what they do for people that are coming right out of college and how likely they are to hire them. And I'm also wondering, between the two of you, if you guys pursued higher education after you left Center.
So I guess I can speak to the Schneider piece. We do have internship opportunities. I cannot say specifically for the sustainability group what they have available, but they do have internship opportunities. What I will say, having had Center interns, is that they tend to be summer interns because the logistics of getting okay, at least when we were in person, the logistics of getting to Louisville on a regular basis can be a little bit much for people to manage if they're also managing classwork and potentially, other obligations as well. So there are internship opportunities made available. I know we often will have representatives at career fairs, at college events, and so those tend to be the easiest ways for you all to get in touch with people in our business who can help hook you up with the right department and help give you an opportunity that's in the field that you're interested in pursuing. In terms of having availability for jobs afterwards, certainly I've often told interns that an internship is kind of like the longest job interview of your life. And if you're a good intern, I will do absolutely anything I can to find availability for you when your graduation time comes. From a business perspective, sometimes the jobs and the ending of your internship don't always line up. But having said that, my personal view is that if we've put in a lot of time with an individual, we want them to be employees because, you know, you've proven yourself. And if you've been a good intern, you know, we want to give an opportunity. So I would say there are opportunities for jobs after an internship, especially if you, like I've said, if you are coming in every day or whatever frequency, exceeding the mark, basically treating it like every single day is a job interview and you want to show your very best. Those are the interns that we look to hire. And I think I could say that regardless of which department you're coming into. As far as the higher education, I did one out of boredom. I did one semester at Syracuse thinking I was going to get a master's degree in, I don't even remember now, honestly. And then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So that was the end of my higher education pursuits. I don't know about you, Josh.
Coming out of college, I looked at possibly doing a master's degree, but I decided that for mathematics, at least, you either had to go all the way to a PhD, or because the master's didn't open up any more doors for you. So you had to go all the way to the PhD, and then those open very specific doors. And I had to know for myself whether or not those were the kinds of jobs I wanted to go toward. So I decided not to go for a master's in mathematics. And I thought similarly about English, that a master's in English didn't necessarily translate to extra job opportunities for entry-level employees. But a PhD might open other fields, but I, again, didn't want those. So I did, very briefly, I did a semester in a master's in petroleum engineering, but I said I didn't like it. I really hated remote learning. And I took a different path like Kat seems to have taken. I decided instead to build a skill set that was highly marketable instead of worrying about getting another degree.
Josh, I think you hit a nerve there when you mentioned about remote learning wasn't your thing. I saw a lot of smiles there. I don't think it's anybody's thing. Any other questions from students?
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm a first year this year. I was just wondering, what's your favorite part of your jobs?
I guess, Josh, why don't you go first this time?
Okay. The favorite part of my job, I suppose, and that's a really great question. Anytime you find yourself unsatisfied, you need to write down what things you need from your job or from your current environment to be happy. And if you can't see yourself getting those things where you're at, you should make a change, either in your expectations or in your environment. I like my autonomy and I like being able to get things right. The current company I work at is very concerned about getting things correct and telling the truth to our investors with total transparency. And we want to get things very right, but then I'm given the autonomy to use my particular skill set and my experience to be in charge of how we get it right. So that's, I think, what I enjoy the most.
For me, it's interesting. Because I manage people directly, their success and their career development is, you know, not entirely in my hands. Like Josh said, you need to make your own career. And I think that was an excellent point. You know, no one can dictate what your future is or should be. But I take a lot of satisfaction from being able to coach and mentor people. It is really satisfying to watch other people be successful, in part because of the, you know, leadership that I'm able to provide for them. And so I don't have children, but I kind of joke that the people who work for me, it's kind of like being proud of your kid. When they do well, part of you feel like, I did something right. And it's a rewarding feeling. It never stops being, you know, amazing to watch other people succeed in their roles.
Can I ask the counterpoint to that question is like, what's a challenge for you in your career field or your role?
Do you want to flip back, Josh, or do you want me to go ahead?
You can go ahead first if you want. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
muting myself between questions.
Well, I think a challenge for me is, you know, it's kind of balancing that human component with the fact that we're running a business and we need to run a profitable business. And so it necessarily leads itself to, you know, sometimes having to have difficult conversations and, you know, kind of keeping a P&L in mind and knowing that there's a bottom line and there's real money involved. And it's you know, a decision has financial ramifications. It has potentially personal ramifications and can play out in a lot of different ways. And so I don't, when you said that you were going to come with a counterpart, I thought you were going to say, what do you dislike about your job? I don't dislike this. It is a challenge of the job that I embrace and recognize that is part of having a, having a successful business is, being able to kind of deal with those, the tough situations, the tough questions, the bottom line.
I think for me, the first challenge I had at the job coming out of college was I had never considered working for the oil and gas industry, and I didn't really have a good idea of what they did. And so I gave myself 6 months to discover whether or not it was evil. And so I spent 6 months digging under every rock I could look under, trying to figure out who's running this company. Is this a bunch of bad people with nobody's interest in mind? And I found that wasn't the case. But some industries are controversial, not the kind of industries you talk to your neighbor on the airplane about. And a fossil fuels industry is one of those industries, so that's a challenge. We try to do everything we can to provide energy. My particular company is mostly a natural gas provider for electricity and heating, so it's a little bit easier. But that's one challenge. And then, as Kat was mentioning, there's a lot of conflicting priorities, and some of those things lead to us, dropping a rig line, for example. That's people's jobs. If we decide we're going to slow down the pace of development, it has real impacts. You have to very carefully weigh that.
Thank you. We have time for one last question if anybody has anything.
I have another question if no one else has.
Go for it.
So I get what you're saying, Josh, about how like talking about fossil fuels can be a little touchy. So I don't know if this question might apply to you. It might more apply to Kat since it's more focused on like renewable energy sources and things that are a little bit cleaner. But I'm wondering, in your respective careers, how you feel you're having a positive impact on where the direction of the planet is going environmentally.
I think for me, Schneider has an interesting opportunity in that we are not sellers of energy. And so we get to help part of our priorities are driven by, our own corporate strategy, but we are also working with our customers to help them achieve their corporate strategies. And so part of the challenge is operating in the world we live in, right? I don't think anybody thinks that clean energy is a bad thing, but realistically, how do we get energy today? There's a lot of different ways. And so I think, being able to help customers make the best choice for themselves that's going to allow them to get the energy that they need at a good price and allow them to meet whatever sustainability goals they have in place. For me, that is how I kind of view energy in a nutshell. It's an innovative arena. And so I think there's going to be a lot of change in how, people consume and buy energy in the future. But again, the way we operate today, we want to make the best of the reality of the situation that we have. And so I think that's what I really like about, Schneider is we're helping our customers to figure out how to navigate kind of an ever-changing landscape.
Sure. For me, natural gas as a way to produce electricity or heat your home is much cleaner than coal. It is a stepping stone. And we have to remember also that a lot of the technologies around batteries require very intensive mining of rare earth metals. It's not free either, environmentally speaking. We all have to balance how we're going to use the Earth's precious resources, and we all want innovation. We all want to move to a cleaner energy economy, and we all want to be part of it. And we've got this finite resource, and a big part of what I do is trying, like Kat was saying, we innovate as a company, as a team, as an industry to do things better, cleaner, more efficiently, and more safely for everybody. There's a whole lot of people in the rest of the world, not just in the US and Africa and the Indian subcontinent, that are going to need a whole lot of energy over the next few decades to raise the standard of living for the entire populations of those places. And they are not going to say, oh, we're just not going to use that because it's a preferentially dirty fuel source. They're going to use it. And so we all have a responsibility in the industry to be as clean, as efficient, as innovative as we can, to be very careful how we shepherd that for the world.
Thank you. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm wondering if Kat and Josh, if you have kind of a last bit of advice for our students as they're exploring careers and looking for those next opportunities, looking for internships, things like that.
Can I go first this time? I think one thing to remember is, so I had gone from school, sort of applying for different things in high school, then in college, and the way the resume and the way I spun myself was basically as a student. Companies don't hire students, they hire workers. So you have to remember how to identify the skills and the competencies that you possess and how they're relevant to a job. For example, after my first job, after 2 years, nobody has ever asked for a college transcript. They all want to know what you've done. They want to know what you can do. And so it's never too early to start thinking in terms of how to sell yourself for what you can do and what you have done, not just your coursework, not just your GPA. Think about the skills you already have.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think it kind of goes to what I was saying earlier about, be a problem solver and so as part of, looking for jobs or internships or opportunities, I think being able to demonstrate a skill set, and whether it's problem solving or something else, that's certainly a helpful piece. And then again, I think this sounds a little bit kind of, I don't know what the word is to describe it, generic, but I think be open to not knowing exactly what it is that you're willing to do. Or maybe stated differently, be willing to give something a shot, even if you're not 100% sure that it's going to be a perfect fit for you, because you can check out your buckets and you can see if this is a good fit or not. And if it isn't, you can always consider moving on. Or you could be like me and kind of accidentally get into something that you really, really like, so much so that you choose not to look other places and choose not to get outside of the department because you enjoy it so much. And yeah, if you'd have told me validating invoices, validating energy invoices is something you're going to not only, do, but like, I probably would have laughed at you. But so I think having a really open mind and being willing to give things a shot if they pique your curiosity, even if it doesn't fit within what you thought you were going to be, is, for me, I think would have been good advice.
Sorry, sometimes I'm slow at unmuting and it makes awkward silences. Sorry about that. Well, thank you both so much. I do want to share something with everybody, both the alumni and the students in this group. I'm going to put it in the chat. Give me 1 second. This is a link to our Career Mentor Network. And, these are the kinds of conversations that you can have with alumni in all different fields, or if you found a new field that you're interested in and want to reach out to either these two, I do have their contact information, so feel free to send me a quick email. I'll send you their email. But also other people doing these sorts of things. This is a great place to connect with alumni and other students. So right now we have about 650 members. Usually about 2/3 of those are alumni and 1/3 are current students. And it's also a great place for alumni to connect with alumni too. But all of the alumni in there have volunteered to give advice, to offer informational interviews, to offer introductions and networking. And so if you're interested in trying to connect with other alumni too, this is a great place. And I hope that the two, Kat and Josh, if they're not already in here, would consider joining, because I think they're great resources for you all and other students. But that being said, I want to give everybody I want to give them, the online round of applause, which is so quiet these days. But we really, really do appreciate both of you giving your time and talking about your careers and your trajectories. So we thank you a lot.
thank you guys. Like I said, never done anything like this before. So appreciate you all being willing to spend some of your kind of, I don't know, free time hanging out with us. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Kat, I think that there's a question that somebody has that they'd like to connect with you briefly
Oh.
when everybody gets off. So
Do I just stay on the line?
can you
then?
stay on just for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to talk to Kat. I am
Okay.
an alumnus of Schneider Electric. Also, I'm talking tomorrow in the data science area, but I think it's really funny how I also worked at Schneider for a couple years, and it set me off in the right trajectory
How funny.
too. So great companies. Good to hear they're still kicking around the energy management space. And,
Where were you? Were you in Louisville?
No, I was in Texas. I was hired at TAC, and then Schneider purchased TAC, and then it became Schneider.
Okay. I was like looking at your name and I thought, boy, I've really missed the mark if I don't remember.
No. I was in Texas well before you started, but I work at a utility now because I started working at Schneider doing measurement and verification with invoices. So
that's so funny. Which utility are you at?
I'm at Tacoma Public Utilities in Washington.
Okay.
So,
How
So
funny.
funny. I think like half of Schneider's workforce is center alumni.
yeah, Dominic
It's-
Barbado is also there, and he and
Yeah.
I worked overlapped by like a smidge, and then he left and then came back.
Yeah, he was at Deloitte. So Dominic was only a year ahead of me at Center.
Okay.
My current boss, so he wasn't my boss when I got hired. My current boss went to Center. His oldest kid is a freshman at Center right now. I have two of my best friends from Center also work at Schneider.
We have a grad who I knew pretty well, Rubel Abate. He started working there last year. He graduated in 2019.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know. It's
crazy.
I know
Small
it is
world.
funny.
It's a
Anyway.
small world. Adonis, I hope you actually pursue this because it is a good company to work for.
Well, yeah, like I want to get in on this Center train. I've like, and it's great that you're both here, and I've experienced with Snyder because I didn't know. I knew Robel, but I didn't know that it was like a big employer of Center students. I'm wondering, you said it's pretty global, but it's just one office that's in Louisville, or there are like several different around the United States? Because I live in Boston, and I'm hoping to stay somewhere in this vicinity after college. And I'm very much interested in like the intersection of like energy and business and the environment. And because I've had experiences in the past where I've done like nonprofit work with like conservation and like forest and like birds and stuff, but like I care about the environment, but like in a solutions-based kind of way, like innovative things. And I think the energy sector just fits all of my interests into one place.
Yeah, I think it really depends. So Schneider is huge, and they do have some offices around the US. Now, as we've moved to working from home, obviously it has the potential to change. I think there have been some very small places that have actually closed because they're looking at different ways to kind of manage that. But the work that we do in Louisville is very, very specific to that kind of it doesn't exist everywhere within Schneider. So the work that we do is not like done across all entities within Schneider. And so I think the question becomes, is it a job that you could do from, like, could you essentially have a job within this division and do it from basically anywhere? And, you know, realistically, I don't know for sure. Now, certainly people are doing it from pretty much anywhere right now, as we've all moved to a work from home environment. So that, you know, if anything, it has potentially changed hiring managers' minds about what can and can't be accomplished in terms of supporting employees remotely. It has certainly, you know, revolutionized the way my team is doing their work and how I manage people.
Mm-hmm.
But I would look into it for sure. Like Hannah said, I mean, pursue it.
Yes,
Yeah.
do it. And it's really just about your willingness to work with them. Again, everyone, it's been 9-10 months now of remote work that previously you may not have been able to convince anyone. In my time, I worked remotely most of the, like 4 days out of 5 when I worked at Schneider, and then I also did that at McKinstry. And so it is definitely possible to work out an arrangement with an employer, kind of to convince them, like, you can spend some time working in person and then kind of work up to that remote too, if the location doesn't work for you. So
I mean, the location is not a huge concern of mine. It's just something that I was just saying. But I'm very much interested in learning more. I was on the website a few days ago, and I was looking for like internship opportunities for this summer, but I don't know if they have not put them out yet, or they're taken, or like they're not specifically sustainability related. Can you guys speak to that a little, maybe Kat?
Specifically, I do not know. What I will say is they are probably trying to figure out what they can effectively manage, given the fact that we are not working in the office. And so how they're able to, successfully have interns may be a situation that they have not 100% figured out yet, because honestly, I don't currently have any open, summer intern positions for my department. And so I don't know if that's necessarily the case for other leaders, but I do think it would be a big challenge to onboard an intern just for a summer entirely remotely. And so that could be part of what you're seeing, but I don't know.
And as the person in charge of internships at Center, we're seeing this in all sectors. Everybody's just putting off the decisions because it's such awkward timing. This is the time where people would start posting internships, but nobody knows whether to do virtual or in person at this point. And so I think we're going to see a lot of companies delaying posting for positions until February or March, when we see what happens with the vaccine and a new administration, new approach. Like, there's so much up in the air right now with changes that could happen that nobody can predict, both based on politics and the pandemic. And also with numbers so bad right now, everybody's hopeful that things are going to be better in the spring. But if anybody had to make a decision now, they just canceled based on numbers. So I think a lot of companies are putting off that decision. I also want to say, Adonis, that Schneider does post positions in Handshake for us. So we have a couple of them that just expired, a digital engineering program, and then a human resources internship. And there's one in there.
Reach out though, even though they've expired, do reach out.
Yep.
I will tell you, like Kat said, interns who are excited and passionate and ready to go, like, we love those. And so, like, please, I will actually, so the company I worked for, I do have to run, the company I previously worked for was McKinstry, and we also have an internship program. And so I'm going to reach out to Bree, who's kind of one of my friends that work there, and I'll see if I can give her information to Mindy and see if we have some kind of internship opportunities open too, because we had remote interns this summer, and that was exciting and interesting. So
I can put out some feelers and see if they, they may not have anything, and they may say we don't have anything. But Mindy, I can connect back through you if that's the best way to get you information, if there's something available.
Either way, or I can give Adonis, send me a quick email, and I can, because I'll forget, and I'm going to have to leave right after this. I can give you Kat's email address and Hannah's too, if you want, so you can connect directly.
Please.
I was just going to say that you guys could type it in the chat real quick, just to cut out the work for everybody.
There you go. I'm sorry, I have to run. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye. Okay.
Well then,
feel free. Shoot me an email. I'll see what I can find out. I don't know what they're posting in the sustainability realm, if anything, but I will ask.
Yeah, and Adonis, I mean, if you know Robel too, he's a pretty new hire, but still use your connections. You don't rely on just one person, right? Kat might know her corner, but Romel might know something else that is in his corners too. That's how I would do it. Reach out to everybody you know. So let me know if you need help getting in touch with Robel if you don't have information. I have his phone number.
Thank you for your questions. I appreciate an engaged panel, so thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight and energy. You got